Hello there, this is a unique video coming to you today from Railway Empire 2, and specifically I'm trying to capture a bug that's been in progress, and I'm going to try to do a route setup and show what I've been doing, show what I currently have, uh, and hopefully the developers at Calypso will see this. So this is mainly for you guys, and then just anybody interested in how I've started the city. If you want to watch as well, that's fine. Hopefully this will be less than an hour, um, half an hour give or take is my goal. So I will get to it. Um, so I'm out of Paris, and this mainly the person I'm talking to, the audience is the developers. So I'm out of Paris, and I set up. I've been in the process of developing freight lines secondary to my passenger lines, and so the only complete connection of a freight line between two cities is Paris to Caen. And I had a new idea recently. I'm not going to really go through all the details of what I used to do, but what I'm trying to do this video was something new to this particular city was something new to me, and I put a warehouse and a hotel here in Caen, or in Blank. It's Blank also is developing, as you can see, sugar and cattle. So you can get 8 different resources from this warehouse. And the 8 resources, as you can see, nothing specific. If this works the way I was hoping it would, and I don't see why it shouldn't. That's why I'm trying to record this, because I believe it's a bug. But if this works the way it should, then every warehouse, as I set up as a distribution, will be like it'll only collect the resources close to it, and then those will get onto the main freight line, and then the main freight line will deliver back and forth between different cities. And this is all just for context to the problem. So from Blank would be collecting milk, grain, and the reason, if anybody's going to ask, the reason why I don't have grain go to Paris, even though it's supposed to, is because they're close enough and the direction of the stations are kind of the same. I instead thought it would be better to go to Blank. So it's just kind of a trial thing, and that's not the reason why the problem's not working. But milk, grain, coal, fruits, and I believe wool. If I saw that there. Yeah, wool's here. And what's the last thing? Sugar, grain, wool, fruits. Sugar, grain, wool, fruits, milk, salt. Salt, where's salt? Salt's over here. Salt's right there. So I was going to bring that in. None of that really matters. Just laying out the context so you understand what the development was. As you can see, I don't have tracks going to anywhere except for the grain. There's no tracks to the milk or no tracks to the coal and fruit. None of that's been established yet. All that was just my plan until I developed this problem. And all those 6 resources would come in on standalone solo tracks. So the standalone solo tracks would come in, and as you can see, I put up, hold on, go ahead and show the directions. Because there's a double cross right here, what I call a double crossing, you could go left and right from either direction. From this all the way to the station where it bridges back to 1, because this is actually an extra track. This track right here makes number 8, so this is actually number 9 right here. So it's a double cross, and then that will help. So anybody from this side, from either of these 2 solo tracks, being that they're both two-way, anybody from either of these 2 tracks, and it would just be 1 train each, will always go right, and then as they're coming back out, they'll always go coming back out on this one, and the double cross will allow that for both two-way tracks. But the problem has nothing to do with these 2. Again, just laying the context. So as you can see, those 2 come all the way in, and they bridge together right here, and it connects directly there. So again, that's not part of the problem, but that's why those are there. The issue is this track right here. If you notice, the gridiron is divided into the gridiron is six tracks, and they're divided in three sets of one set of three and another set of three, and you can see that. So you can see that there. So everything looks like it should be intact. Everything looks like it should be. And then leaving the gridiron, the way I do it, passenger and freight, 2 lanes in between cities once they leave the gridiron. The only exception is when they approach supply depots. And then I had a 3-lane, and I treat it just like a regular train station. My train stations, and it's hard to explain with all that there, so I'm going to go show you my train station in Paris. Any inbound track will add a 3rd lane to the right, so you can see here, 3rd lane to the right, and there's enough room where a train can stop and park in front of the gridiron if just so happens the track was blocked here. I know there's crossover there and it allows it, but any train can park in either of these two on the outside if needed, and there's plenty of room inside the gridiron that they can park and cross over to all 3 lanes. So it's always, for me, 2 tracks going inbound, 1 track outbound. So the 2 tracks are inbound is only possible because I add a 2nd track to the inbound track into the station. You can see that here. I also demonstrated. Have I seen it work all the time? Not always. Every now and then I'll see a train, so I do know that the trains are thinking alternate possibilities. Like 1 in probably 10, but they at least try. So in between, when there is, and I'll go show somewhere else. When there is a fuel stop, all of that's a work in progress. I thought I developed a fuel stop somewhere along the lines here. Apparently not. I'm not giving much supply to any of these guys. Orange is taking over. I pretty much lost the city because I've been so focused on this problem that I've been doing, and that's why I'm making this video. Well, I guess usually my fuel stops will treat just like a regular train station. So the right lane for both will add 1, and this one, the left lane coming out, is following along the added right lane instead of the normal right lane. That's why it doesn't look like there's a gap there, and it all was kind of fairly smooth. But the right lane for the freight is here, and adds to it there, and then the right lane adds to it here for the passenger line going in. So if you follow that, those 3 are divided, but between those 3, you'll notice the gridiron itself is divided. Trying to make sure it's nice and smooth. There's no crossing track from this track to this track. Takes a minute trying to get a line up. There's no crossing between those 2 tracks. Go away. I need your report. So, all that to demonstrate there's no reason for any of these tracks to affect, or any of these 2 tracks to affect the 3 lines for the freight. So now that we've established these 3 right here on the right side going into the station or into the first fuel depot and then the station, we've established these 3 are freight only. This is where the conflict is. The track that's giving me the conflict is this track right there. That track right there is where the problem is. It's actually stopping right here at the edge of this gridiron. I don't see any problem with that. I don't know why it's stopping. Normally, if the depot was not here, coming out of the gridiron, I would give it 4 kilometers, and then after 4 kilometers, it would be 2 tracks. At the 4 kilometer mark, give or take, usually it depends on where curves are and stuff like that might affect it, because it only needs 2 kilometers. I give it 4 kilometers, and then I'll add the 3rd track, and that would be this track right here going into the gridiron. But, and you can see that demonstrated by this crossover right here, that would be the added 3rd track going into the gridiron. However, we've got the supply depot, so because the supply depot is already, and I didn't do a full distance between the supply depot, I've done this before in other cities, and it seemed to work for me as there, so I don't know what the difference is. But because we've got the supply depot, it mixes things up. So I'm keeping the same pattern where the 2 tracks, if this was only the 2 tracks and this 3rd track was not there, then after the supply depot, it would add the 3rd track here. Well, once I get, there we go, it would add the 3rd track there going into the gridiron. So coming out of the gridiron, let's turn it and look at it right. Coming out of the gridiron, that track right there is the outbound of the gridiron. However, going into the freight depot, I wanted to make sure it still had alternate tracks if needed. So that's why this middle piece right here is neutral from the gridiron to the supply depot. So because it's neutral, somebody can also come out of the gridiron on this track and take this direction into the supply depot, and as you can see right there, I pinned it. At leaving the supply depot, they can make the right exchange and back into the right lane here, where the normal, this is just the normal right lane exit departing the gridiron and the supply depot. And this allows anybody coming in from this way can still choose this middle track coming into, now that I'm backwards, but coming into, and then would still switch over, or they could stay in the middle all the way into the gridiron, if that makes sense. I know I'm all over the place because I can't keep the camera still. So yeah, that's the middle. So now that I've explained that, oh, I did not mean to change that. So, being neutral, the pathway is not moving, and then you can see coming out, it's still neutral to go to this one, to go there, and this one is dedicated coming inbound until it actually hits the gate or the supply gate, and then that's where it's neutral, and then it can still stay in the neutral or go to the right lane. So there's options there going in and out of the grid, leaving the gridiron as well as, or leaving the gridiron. They have options for 2 tracks inbound to the supply depot, but returning to the gridiron, if they're passing through the supply depot and then going into the station, they've got 2 options. So it just depends on who takes that middle lane when somebody's needed. If somebody's there, then either direction can still choose the right lane going out or going in, whatever they're going. If all that makes sense. I'd say go ahead and nod at me, but I wouldn't see it. I'm just trying to be silly. Kind of my inside joke. If anybody from my YouTube watching, they've heard me say that plenty of times. Hopefully that makes sense to the developers. And it's because I'm trying to compact the space between the supply depot, because leaving the supply depot, there's a 4 kilometer gap between where the there's a 4 kilometer gap plus or minus, and again the curve actually affects it, so there's probably a little bit more than 4 kilometers. 4 kilometer gap between where the track is added on, so again 2 tracks, and then right here where it adds the 3rd track, that's the 3rd track for the freight, and then of course the 3rd track for the passenger right here. Between the add-on 3rd track and the supply depot itself, it's typically about 4 kilometer gap is my objective. But because I'm compacting the space, if I did the full 4 kilometers, I would have had to stretch this out at least 8, if not 9 kilometers between the supply depot and the gridiron, which would put the supply depot way out beyond, probably right about there. So all that thick would have been right there. And then leaving the supply depot, it would have gone back to 2 for about a fraction of a moment, or a very short distance, less than a kilometer, and then would go back to 3. It just seemed pointless to that. Plus the space itself, if I did that, the supply depot would come way out here, the tracks would have come out. I just thought it was better the way I built it to compact the space, and that's why instead of making both go to their own 2 and then back to 3 in between, I compacted it, and I'm using the same space in between the 2, having a neutral track for either direction, going either tracks. So again, all that's for context. So now with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and set up the routes, and I'll walk you through what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and set up the grain route first. Grain is being run from the grain supply on a dedicated route to the warehouse. We know the warehouse is already loaded with grain. Give me a moment while I get all this set up. Not that all those details really matter, it doesn't, but just trying. Oh, so let's go ahead and get the stations first. So if we're setting up the grain, we're going to grab grain from here first, and I'll add the details in a moment. We're going to come to Paris. Paris Freight. I didn't label the station, but eventually I will. I usually add Paris and Freight. And then after Paris, it's going to skip Blanc and then come to Cane 2 or Cane Freight. And then with those 3, it's going to pick up the grain, take it to the Paris, pick up the well, I mean, I already told you, yeah. Sometimes I have a hard time multitasking. Keeping my thoughts in order while actually committing the action. So, as you can see, picking up the grain, excluding all the other resources. It's freight only, so there's no passenger or mail. And we don't need much, so I'm going to cap that at 4. That's usually what I do. Not that that matters for the conflict that I've been having. And then when I get here, I don't want to pick up
nice weather today, isn't it?
Cattle. Ignore him. I don't want to pick up the cattle or the meat, because I don't need that for this route. So I'm going to max that at 0. So that way it comes back into Cane or Blanc empty-handed. So normally I don't let this run, but I'll let this run enough till it gets through. Actually, I'll do it the same way I've done it in the past. So as it loads and it leaves, I'm going to pause. And I'm going to set up the meat. So as he's leaving, you notice there's no conflict. He has no conflict whatsoever because there's no other train set up. So where the conflict comes from, I'm not sure. But now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to set up the meat. Oops, don't want that button. Meat is already at the station. It doesn't have to be ported in. Not meat, but cattle is already at Blanc. It doesn't have to be imported in like the grain does. So we're going to ignore the grain, add the meat or cattle, and exclude everything else. And we only need a max 4. Because it's just going to take 4, up to max 4 meat to Paris, is the idea. Don't want it to pick up the brews. Don't need them. We want to make sure it comes back empty-handed. The reason why, as I mentioned in text, and I'll explain it now, if anybody's read all my comments in the Discord, which should be above, the reason why I'm not having a train do just the meat pickup to the warehouse, and then, I mean the cattle delivery, and then the meat to the warehouse, and then a second train meat to from the warehouse to Paris, is because this train will at least pass through the supply depot I've set up, whereas dividing it into 2 trains, the cattle train dedicated would not ever pass through. I'd have to build a second supply depot. So I'm trying to consolidate to where, and it should work in my mind, the way I understand this game, it should work. I shouldn't have to build a supply depot between every single station if I can have a train skip over or get used in between multiple stations. So tell me if you guys agree or disagree with that. So I didn't set up the first half of this, but I'm going to do that. Oh, it's already freight. Change this over to freight. I always add reefer car because of the meat. Not that that makes any difference to the conflict. Start that. Now you can see the grain should already be established and be on its way to Paris. I'm not going to even select the grain yet. I'm going to let you watch and see what happens. I know exactly what's going to happen. I've seen it happen 10 times already. You've seen everything I've done. There's no reason for this conflict. And yet the train stops. Why is it stopped? There's no other train on these 2 tracks besides those 2 trains right there. We can see now that the meat or the cattle is leaving. It's on its way to Caen. Caen's quite a ways away, 10 or so kilometers. So we'll come in and we will look at why. Can anybody tell me why that is? There's no reason for it. Someone tried telling me in text that the train was too close to an intersection. I don't understand what intersection. But there's no reason for this conflict. And it frustrates me because I can't play the game the way I was hoping to play the game. I know I've set up weird things in the past, and they've always worked for me. So I don't understand why this is not working. So we'll let it play out real quick. I'm going to go into fast mode. That other train will stay there the entire time. This other train here, notice, is on the dedicated track. It never will conflict with the other 3. It's a dedicated direct supply. That's the grain coming in. So, as I mentioned, even this weird conundrum where there's either track has a separate direction and then they divide into the 2 separate solos, none of that caused any conflicts. And the train is on its way back out, empty, going back to the grain to pick it up. And because it's on a dedicated delivery track. And that's what I was hoping to do with all the supply, but I stopped because of this issue. So now that we're sitting here, we can see now that the train is inbound. It is inbound. It is inbound. Will it pass? No, it will not. Why? If this blockage has been here. So the first conflict is, why would this train wait that whole time for a conflict that never happened? It's predicting a conflict that would never have happened if this train would have kept going. Instead, this train decides to pull up behind it and not use the alternate track that I've set up. It should have been like, okay, well, the track's blocked ahead. Way back here, it should have detected. The it didn't have to take this right here. Is it the shortest route? Yes, but there's no. In real life, everybody knows trains communicate with each other. The switches communicate with each other. Something should have told that second train, and if you guys didn't program it right or what, I don't know. Something should have told that second train. There's a blockage ahead. Take the middle route. So it doesn't. It takes the right lane and all the way through, and now it's stuck behind the train that's waiting for it. The two trains are waiting for each other, and it does not make sense. There's no reason for this conflict. Some people might still say, and there's no way you convince me that this short distance, this is 4 kilometers between these two gates. Between this gate right here and the supply depot, there's 4 kilometers. There's no way there's not enough room there. That even with that, he could have pulled up to the gate and could have waited there, and still had enough room for the other train behind it to switch over and take the gridiron on the way out. But it doesn't do it. So it's a coding issue, and the issue is the trains always want to take the shortest distance, and they never take alternate tracks when it's only a difference of maybe 2 kilometers. Not even 2 kilometers, like 2 feet. It would have been just 2 feet difference if it had gone this middle track right here and avoided that third track, that right track. It always thinks it has to take the shortest route, and I think that's ridiculous programming. I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but to me it looks like lazy programming. It's a great game. I love this game. This is why I'm so passionate right now. That's why I'm so frustrated, because I love trains. I love this game, but to me this is lazy programming right here. There's no way for that conflict. But hopefully I haven't lost you developers yet. Stay with me, and I've experimented with this enough times, and if anybody's noticed, I have not set up any dedicated tracks. So I did do that most recently. So now I'm going to reset up those 2 routes exactly how they are. And it doesn't matter, since the last time I set it up with grain first, I'll set up the meat first. And I would dedicate specific stops, or all 3 stops I would dedicate which track they actually park on. And you'll see it looks like it solves the problem, and then it doesn't. The problem just continues. It just elevates it an extra 2 cycles or whatever. I don't know. Give me a minute. I'll set it all up. Oh, wait. Oh, I almost forgot. No. See, now I'm messing up. Hold on. So we're going to put this on 3. No, that didn't work. There. So that's on 3. This will be on 1. And this will be on 1. I usually have a system of which trains I use depending on what direction they're going. At this moment, I'm not going to worry about that. I am going to make sure that they are separate stop stations. I'm actually not going to play it yet. I'm going to set up the other first, so you'll see that they literally load at the same time. Oh, nope, I didn't do that because it's already loaded. I thought it was paused coming out of the menu, and it wasn't paused. Oh well, I think it'll still do the same thing. Question is, I gotta remember. Last one I said 4, so this one will say 2. 2, pick up grain, ignore everything else. Max 8. Oh, hold on. Oh, nope, nope, nope. Something's not right. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. So last one was 1, so I think this one's going to be 2. And I'll double check the numbers in a moment. So we're going to pick up max 4. I had to think about what I was doing. Max 4 going to Kane. And then Kane's going to pick up no cat. Oh, let's pick up number 2. I believe I said 1 for the last train. And no meat. Nothing right? Okay. And just gonna double check that this is 1 like I thought it was, because that's what I was thinking. So yes, the other one starts with 2, and then all 3 stations are actually 2. This one starts with 3, and then the other 2 should be 1. Yeah, 1, 1, 3. So just to double check. So that one was 1, 1, 3. This one should be 2, 2, 2. Oh, nope, not that one. Oh, it's not loaded yet. Two, 2, 2. So there's separate stops all the way. Everybody notice that? That was the plan. Let's see if they avoid each other now. Meat got a head start. Grain should start to take off. Question is, does he stop here? I don't think he will. Moves over to the middle. Goes through. Everything looks good. Fantastic, right? Now he's over to the front right lane. That's the way he should. And off he goes. How's the other one doing? Coming back from Kane. The only reason it slows down is the steep hill coming out of Kane. I think it was slowing down to stop, but once it gets up to the top of the hill, it's all flat. And he goes to 3. Yep, he's trying. Oh, actually, he's not even stopping there. Just passing through, passing through, passing through. Why is he stopping? The other train never even comes this track. And for a moment, it doesn't even look like there's a conflict. It just says he's waiting. So I don't understand what the issue is. It'll come back up. Now it is. That moment, that glitch there, the difference was the train being parked in the station, now unloaded. Now it's coming back with the bruise. Just watch. This gets even more crazy. The other train will do exactly what it's supposed to do. Got trains breaking down. At this point, I don't care. Once I solve this, figure this out. Hopefully, you guys see the problem. Hopefully, you guys can fix this bug. I'll probably end up restarting this game, just because I've lost the game pretty much. I'm so focused on this problem. But if I go to another game and try to reestablish everything I've done, then I don't want this problem to continue on the other game. Am I overthinking everything? Trying to give extra options. Look, you just passed it by. Bye. I don't know what you're waiting for, but I'm continuing on. And he's gonna go all the way to Kane, drop off that brew, and when he comes back, he's just gonna pass. He's gonna pass the meat. So if he's waiting for the cattle, if the meat train is waiting for the brew, and the brew passed, why is he still waiting? He's gonna wait, and it will pass all the way and go all the way to Kane, come all the way back, and you'll see the other train stop in Blanc. You'll see it load, and you'll see it leave. That little glitch right there is it's pulled into the station. It's dropping off in Kane here in a moment, and he's still waiting. Still waiting. Let's go ahead and double check the directions. See if there's any conflict that explains why is this train waiting. And there is none. The train itself is overthinking a conflict that will never happen if all he does is just keep going. But he doesn't. The game thinks it's going to happen, so the game freezes the train. And I don't understand why. But as that train waits, here comes the other train. Don't care about the newspaper. Don't care about that train. Pulling into the station. You see it in the distance. And he's going to load. Not even the proper track. The other train is loading at station 2, just like he's ordered. Track 2, just like he's ordered. And this is on track 3. Nope, this is on track 4. And the train just keeps waiting. I don't have anything to deliver. I'm just going to sit here with meat. It's going to go bad. I'm just going to watch this grain train. I'm not going to watch it. I just wanted to show you guys. It does a full cycle and still waits. The grain train did a full cycle now and will still wait and will continue to wait. And there's no reason for that. Very bad coding as far as I'm concerned. It's overseeing a conflict that will never happen because they share the same track. The idea was, after those two were set up, I was going to have a mixed train pick up anything needed and deliver to Kane, and then come back, pick up anything needed in Blanc and deliver to Paris, and that train was going to run dedicated, separate from the other two. And so these freight tracks were going to be really busy. But those were going to be delivering, and then if I developed any other stations, I probably was going to connect whatever that is, Reigns, and it would also get delivers from Blanc. And then as it gets closer over here, some of these goods over here will instead go to Reigns. There's, some of the goods are mixed match. Some of the goods would still come from Blanc to go farther away. But there's no reason, in my understanding, why this conflict is happening. There you have it. Hopefully Calypso can fix this. And anybody else watching, thank you again for stopping by, stepping in, sticking around. As I usually like to tell my fans, friends, followers. Hopefully, despite the conflicts with this game, hopefully we can get more videos to you guys from my channel. And I do other videos, as most of you know. Well, that will be it for now.